and which could have been the spot where the alien craft landed.
Since 1983, the Rendlesham UFO incident has attracted worldwide attention. But to this day, there is still no explanation for what US Air Force personnel claim they saw in the woods and skies of Suffolk. Some experts, having reviewed the reports of strange lights and a glowing spacecraft, have concluded that these sightings are a simple case of optical illusion. Retired Air Force Major and astronomer James McGahey learned about the incident by chance.
I first heard about the Rendlesham Forest case in 1983 when I was at the base conducting a military exercise there on temporary duty.
He discovered that only 5 miles from the twin bases is the Orford Ness Lighthouse. McGahey believes that witnesses mistook the lighthouse for a UFO.
If you're out in a dark sky on a cold night in December, and a lighthouse is swinging through the trees with this bright beam of light passing through the trees, it's going to have some strange, unusual effects. Light is going to get scattered by the trees.
John Burroughs did mention this lighthouse in his first statement to his superiors. In the report, he said that after the mysterious lights had disappeared, he thought the lighthouse was another craft, but quickly realized his mistake.
I want to clarify something. This is always somebody tries to twist it. If you read the statement, especially mine, it clearly distinguishes between what we saw at the beginning and then we did see a beacon light and we followed it. Nowhere in my statement does it say I felt the beacon light was the object.
I've done a whole lot of research on this lighthouse. You know, you can talk about it from here to eternity. And there's absolutely no way that a lighthouse can travel 5 miles, go in and out of trees, shoot beams down to the ground. So anyway, it's not a lighthouse.
But McGahey claims there is a second explanation for the lights in the sky that has nothing to do with UFOs.
On the night of the 25th, at around 9:30 in the evening, a Cosmos satellite re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. It would have looked like a fireball, which is a very, very bright meteor.
For nearly 20 years, skeptics and believers have sought answers. In 2002, thanks in part to researchers like Georgina Bruni, the British government finally released a further set of records. Although they provided additional information about the case, the files raised new questions. They made it clear that the British government had investigated the mysterious sightings back in 1981. This fact seems to indicate that military investigators did not believe the sightings were caused by a lighthouse or a satellite. But the files also revealed some shortcomings in that investigation.
We discovered that some of the radar facilities were actually faulty. The cameras were faulty on the nights in question, or allegedly faulty, that the films were missing.
At the time, investigators based their research on the original memo written by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt. His document states that the first event occurred on December the 27th, but the sightings actually began on the 25th. Holt's mistake had led researchers to examine the wrong nights for 20 years. It was a frustrating revelation for Nick Pope, an official with the Ministry of Defense.
Here we had possibly the most significant UFO event ever to have taken place on British soil, and yet not only were the dates wrong, but crucial days had been lost.
Moreover, much had been left out of the files. Researchers hope the American and British governments will release further information, including pictures taken by Air Force personnel on the nights of the sightings. These are the only photographs that remain from the investigation. They show the alleged landing site being examined, but there's no evidence of a landed craft. The US Air Force's official stance is that the events were of no threat to national security. To many, this statement doesn't ring true. If in fact nuclear weapons were housed at the base, then the military would have been very concerned about reports of an unidentified aircraft.
We had objects flying over the weapon storage area shining beams down to the ground. If that ain't defense significance, what is?
Skeptics, however, point to the military authorities' response to bolster their claim that UFOs did not visit Rendlesham Forest.
This was during the Cold War. You have to realize that security was fairly tight. Anything that would happen near the flight line when you have these high-value asset aircraft, tactical aircraft, or in weapons areas would immediately cause a response by the entire base. Everybody on the base would have been woken up and been reacting to something like that. And of course that didn't happen.
Even Charles Holt, the deputy base commander, is frustrated with his search for answers.
I kept prodding Squadron Leader Moreland, the British liaison officer, for an answer. Doesn't somebody care? Isn't somebody interested? I got the feeling that I was kind of left hanging out there to dry, if you know what I mean.
Although they continue to press for more information, some researchers believe that the missing files and early mistakes in the military investigation may leave the Rendlesham case a lasting mystery.
In any investigation, whatever you're investigating, if you don't really use the first 24 hours to try and chase it down, your chances of success diminish rapidly. The problem with the Rendlesham incident is that this happened over the Christmas period. A lot of the key personnel were on leave, and I think there was a bit of a decision-making vacuum.
The newly released information is not sufficient to allow the men involved at Rendlesham to lay the incident to rest. For now, they possess the few pieces of intriguing evidence that remain from their strange encounter. Peniston's plaster casts and drawings, Holt's tape recording.
We're about 150 or 200 yards from the site. Everything else is just deathly calm.
Jim Peniston, Larry Warren, and John Burroughs still believe that the government is hiding the truth.
There's a chain of command, there's a chain of custody, everything's kept track of, and for this stuff to play it like it disappeared and it's gone, it's not.
I guess technically we were part of a cover-up to ourselves. We probably started it by sanitizing the initial report.
Like John Lennon used to say, conspiracy is silence speaks louder than words, and that's fact. And I'll be pissing off people as long as I can about this and screaming that this went down, take a look at it, then judge for yourself.
In America, everyone's heard of Roswell, but only the UFO researchers really know about this case, and yet, in many ways, I consider this case to be bigger than Roswell. This could be the biggest UFO incident of all time. Let's put it where it deserves to be. Let's put it in people's minds.
People keep telling me, well, what really happened? I don't know. What was it? I really don't know. I mean, I don't.
Tomorrow at midday, we investigate a cover-up when the US government tracked a UFO until it disappeared over Mexico. Next, we chart the fierce dogfights above the Solomon Islands as US and Japanese fighter pilots fought for control of the Pacific.